So you know how people are always like states' rights and we should just leave it up to the states? Well, we tried that, but it didn't work. And what if I told you that the Constitution that people love so much and that I love so much technically wasn't the first United States Constitution? So technically the first Constitution of America was called the Articles of Confederation. After the Revolutionary War was over, our founding fathers were like, hey, now we got to make a government. So in 1781, they would ratify the Articles of Confederation. And with that, the biggest thing that they were against having was an executive branch. They didn't want a president. They didn't want an executive branch because they were afraid that they would just have another king. They were like, hey, we just fought a revolution over not having a king. Let's not have another one. So they didn't. So there would be no executive branch. So they would have a Congress, a legislative branch, and the Congress could make war and peace, send and receive ambassadors, make treaties, borrow money and set up a money system, build a navy, and raise an army by asking for states' troops. The state obligations. So if you agreed to the articles, you had to provide funds, send troops when requested, comply with acts of Congress, treat citizens of other states fairly, surrender fugitives from justice, and open travel and trade between the states. Now, this is where things started to get bad. So, one, there was no executive branch, so the legislative branch makes the laws. It's the job of the executive branch to enforce said laws. Congress did not have the power to tax, so when they needed money, couldn't get it. They could not regulate trade, so you could charge whatever state you wanted to between the states. The biggest thing was states could print their own currency. So if I'm from a different country and I want to do business with people from America, what's to decide how much the value of their currency is? So maybe I'm doing business with Georgia, but South Carolina makes me an offer. I'm looking at it like, well, which one's worth more, Georgia money or South Carolina money? And then all 13 states had to agree if they wanted to change an article on the Confederation. So what I tell my students for the biggest example is I give them the option between vanilla or chocolate ice cream, and then they all debate, and I'm like, see, we can't even decide on ice cream. Now you take 13 different states with 13 very strong-minded people, and how far do you think they're going to get? So with us not being able to, so Congress could ask for money, but the state declined. We didn't have the currency, so we still owe a lot of money from the Revolutionary War. So how do they raise the funds? Well, they start taxing the farmers, and that's where you get actually to the picture behind me. The picture behind me is actually a political cartoon or representation of Shays' Rebellion. So Shays' Rebellion was a group of farmers who rebelled against the Massachusetts government. They were farmers who were ex-veterans of the Revolutionary War, and while they were away fighting a war, they weren't able to farm. And since they weren't able to farm, they couldn't pay back their debts and their taxes.